Welcome to Building the Billion Dollar Business, the podcast where we dive deep into the strategies, insights, and stories behind the world's most successful financial advisors and introduce content and actionable ideas to fuel your growth. Together, we'll unlock the methods, tactics, and mindset shifts that set the top 1% apart from the rest. I'm Ray Sclafani, and I'll be your host. What a year. I mean, seriously, what a year. As we close out 2025 and look ahead, I'm willing to bet that if you're listening to today's episode, you had an outstanding year, maybe even your best year yet. Revenue increased year over year. Your organic growth numbers expanded. Your client roster grew. Maybe you even added new services for existing clients and raised fees in ways that finally reflected the value you and your team deliver. Most importantly, I'm willing to bet that the work you did and the work your team did made a real difference. So let's pause right there for a short moment. This work is noble work, and building an enduring team means the impact that you and your team are having on the individual lives and families you serve creates this lasting ripple across the communities that you're a part of. So congratulations. This kind of year is earned. Now, when high-performing teams come off a year like this, I constantly hear from high performers, hey, Ray, what's next? Well, for most high-performing teams, that question quickly leads to a conversation about expanding the team in 2026, adding capacity, new hires, supporting more clients, and alongside all of that, thinking seriously about how AI will help improve operational efficiency and ultimately help you scale. Something many teams are wrestling with right here. And while these are smart conversations and necessary ones, and while AI will continue to shape how work gets done, that's not where I want to spend our time in today's episode. Where I want to focus our limited time is on something many leaders don't pause long enough to consider. Let me explain what I mean. Growth like your team has just experienced doesn't just change your numbers. It changes the lived experience of the people doing the work. Client growth doesn't just mean more revenue. It means more meetings and more decisions, more emotional load and more complexity. And that's where capacity quietly becomes strained long before headcount catches up. So the leadership question needs to shift. It's no longer just a question of how do we scale? It becomes, how do we scale without eroding the experience of the team that made all of the growth possible? Now, that question is what led me over the past few months into deeper reading, reflection, and a series of conversations with many of the teams we coach who are experiencing rapid growth. And I kept coming back to the same question with these leaders and team members alike. How is your team actually experiencing the growth? I wasn't interested in how busy they were or how productive they appeared to be. The best in the business get it all done. I wanted to understand whether the work still felt meaningful, sustainable, and worth doing. And that's not a soft question. It's a predictive one. And that's why I've been studying happiness in the workplace as this year comes to a close. Not because it sounds nice, but because the data says it matters. And that path led me back to the work of Arthur C. Brooks, Adam Grant, my favorite, and research published by Harvard Business Review, Korn Ferry, and Gallup. Now, different disciplines, of course, but they all led to a similar conclusion. If you want to grow well in 2026, you have to pay attention to how growth feels inside the organization, not just how it looks on a dashboard. Arthur Brooks is very clear about this. He says happiness at work isn't about perks, convenience, or mood. It comes from two things: earned success and service. People want to know they're making progress and earning their success, and they want to know who they are helping and why their work matters. In a widely viewed HBR conversation, Brooks points out that despite spending roughly half of our waking hours working, only about 16% of employees report being very satisfied with their work. That gap is not explained by pay or title. It's explained by how people experience their work. Adam Grant's research reinforces this from a different angle. Grant has shown repeatedly that meaningful work predicts persistence, performance, and retention more reliably than incentives once compensation is deemed to be fair. One of his most cited peer-reviewed studies examined call center employees who were raising money for scholarships. When employees spent just a few minutes meeting the students whose lives they were changing, productivity increased dramatically. Pay didn't change, targets didn't change, hours didn't change, only the connection to impact changed. Grant also shows that burnout is not primarily driven by long hours. It's driven by futility, working hard without progress, working hard without voice, working hard without connection. You see, that all matters because leaders often assume burnout is solved by paid time off and benefits and office perks. The research says it's solved by meaning and effectiveness. Now, when you layer in the talent data, this really catches my attention. Gallup, for example, estimates that replacing an employee costs between 50 and 200% of their annual salary, depending upon role and seniority, of course. For managers and specialized professionals like lead advisors and senior lead advisors, the cost commonly approaches 1.5 to 2 times compensation when you factor in recruiting costs, the time it takes for onboarding new employees, and lost productivity. Now, turn to talent data that Korn Ferry publishes. Research heading into 2026 reinforces all of this reality. Skilled talent remains in demand. Hiring is taking longer, and preventable turnover is increasingly expensive. But here's the most important data point. Gallup consistently finds that a majority of voluntary turnover is preventable, and that people most often leave managers and cultures, not jobs or compensation alone. Which brings us back to advisory firms. You can hire faster, you can invest in AI, you can add lots more systems and processes, but if the people on your team lose connection to the impact of their work as the firm grows, disengagement follows quietly. And this is where advisory firm leaders like you have a powerful, underused lever. Let me share the most practical, research-backed move you can make as we enter 2026. Begin by making the connection between your team and your clients more clear. This is where Brooks's concept of service and Grant's research on meaning come together in a very practical way. Many team members in advisory firms, they do extraordinary work and never hear the client say thank you. They prepare the plans, they coordinate, they solve problems, they absorb the stress, and the client relationship often lives most entirely with a lead advisor. From a happiness, engagement, and retention standpoint, that may be a missed opportunity with your team. So what does this look like in practice? Well, let me share 4 very practical and actionable ideas I picked up in the research as I was interviewing teams. First, many teams review case studies regularly as a group, usually for training purposes around technical competency and the specificity of what value was brought to a client. But I would encourage you to change how you use case studies internally. Make case study reviews about people, not just about precision. Highlight the family meeting that brought clarity and how it did so, the tax strategy that reduced anxiety, and the transition plan that created confidence. And give your team a clear view of the before and after. Even invite those clients to a case study review. Let them share their story with the team firsthand. Second, expand who's in the room for the client meeting. In 2026, be more intentional about inviting other team members into client meetings, not just for operational efficiency, but for exposure. Let them hear clients describe what the firm has meant to them. Let them experience the gratitude directly. Third, consider prompting the clients by asking during the next client meeting 2 questions. Hey, what's the one thing you found most valuable at our work together in the past year? And the second question, what do you believe we've accomplished over the past year that we've worked together? Or, we've worked together for 15 years. What do you believe we've achieved in all of those years? That moment matters more than most leaders realize. Fourth, design shared experiences. Plan social events or philanthropic events that foster natural interaction between the clients and team members, not networking events, human ones. Grant's research shows that when people see the beneficiaries of their work, motivation and commitment rise without additional incentives. Brooks's research shows that this deepens happiness through service. Again, this is not soft, it's strategic. It reinforces earned success. It reinforces service. And it creates meaning that compensation alone cannot replicate. So as we head into 2026, this is an optimistic moment. You're growing because clients value what you do. AI will help you work more effectively, but the firms that win will be those that help people feel the impact of their work, not just measure it. Growth without connection is fragile, and growth with meaning is durable. That's how you expand without losing what made this year so great. And that's how you build a team that wants to grow with you. Once again, congratulations on an amazing year. And as we look to the near future, I wish you all the best. I appreciate you listening to these episodes. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd encourage you to follow. And with every episode, I offer a few coaching questions for reflection. These are open-ended and future-oriented. And I'd encourage you to share these with your team. Invite them to listen to these episodes as well. So today there are 4 specific coaching questions. Number 1, as you look ahead to 2026, how intentionally are you to creating opportunities for your team to directly experience the impact your clients say you have on their lives? Number 2, where could a deeper client-team connection strengthen meaning and energy and retention within your firm beyond what compensation or incentives can accomplish? Number 3, if your firm continues to grow its client roster in the year ahead, what will need to change so your team members feel more effective and less stretched as complexity increases? And number 4, what specific practices could you implement in 2026 to make service and earned success more visible across the team, not just for the lead advisors? And that's a wrap. Happy New Year, everybody. Looking forward to a great year ahead. Well, thanks for tuning in, and that's a wrap. Until next time, this is Ray Sclafani. Keep building, growing, and striving for greatness. Together, we'll redefine what's possible in the world of wealth management. Be sure to check back for our latest episode and article.